So South Korea as an internal security state. South Korea is a complex case. It is considered democratic and it is assumed that it does not have significant internal security challenges. However, the internal security apparatuses of South Korea is not only quite powerful and controlling of its society, but also demonstrates its ideology of total security. The president and his or her staff command enormous power over the formulation and implantation of security power, and the chief executive maintains full control over the state's security machinery. Civil society has been reorganized, indoctrinated, and mobilized for the management of security concerns. Here, I will outline the three main pillars of the South Korean internal security apparatus in order to draw out the primary internal security issue facing South Korea. I would argue that its primary concerns have to do with maintaining social cohesion and public order under the guise of phasing the threat from North Korea. One of the main pillars of the South Korean internal security apparatus is its draconian national security law. Syngman Rhee enacted the law as an anti-treason law in 1948 in response to threats from communist North Korea. Its stated purpose is to prevent anti-state acts from threatening the security of South Korea. However, it has long been used by the government to silence legitimate opposition. Anti-state groups are defined as both domestic and foreign organizations or groups whose intentions are to conduct or assist infiltration of the government or to cause national disturbances. The most criticized section is Article 7, which punishes those praising or sympathizing with an anti-state group. Those who praise, encourage, disseminate, or cooperate with an anti-state group will be imprisoned up to 7 years, while anyone who joins a group that intends to do any of those acts will receive a minimum of 1 year in prison. Those who create or spread false information which may disturb national order will be imprisoned for a minimum of 2 years. Those who create, import, duplicate, possess, transport, disseminate, sell, or acquire documents, arts, or other publications in order to violate Article 7 will be punished according to the article violated. Article 9 further states that those who knowingly provide valuables or other monetary benefits or facilities for hiding, meeting, communicating, and contacting or providing other conveniences to persons who have committed or plan to commit anti-state acts will be sentenced up to 10 years in prison. And under Article 10, anyone who fails to inform on those who have committed anti-state acts can receive up to 5 years prison. Critics of the law have long charged the government with using it to silence political and social opposition. In the first year of its enactment, the law was used to arrest or imprison 188,621 people, including 13 members of the National Assembly, accused of disturbing the tranquility of the nation. Repression of under the National Security Law continued until the 1980s, and the government continued to employ the law in particular to punish anyone suspected of North Korean sympathies. In 1989, then President Roh Tae-woo arrested under the law on average 3.3 people per day. The law has been enacted against workers and student protests, especially in the 1990s, in which many pro-democracy, pro-reunification, and anti-government movements became active. The law was enacted against demonstrators protesting unemployment in 1998, resulting in more than 400 arrests. It has further been used to arrest many hundreds of artists, writers, academics, publishers, and bookstore owners. It has also been known to arrest those who make casual comments while intoxicated. In 2013, authorities indicted 102 people under the law, the highest number in 10 years and a threefold increase from 7 years ago. Among the suspects, 62 were convicted, 4 acquitted, and the rest still awaiting verdicts. Many of the accused are left-wing activists and critics who have allegedly made statements sympathizing with or lending support to North Korea. Yet many of the cases are overreactions. For instance, in November 2012, a 24-year-old was sentenced to 10 months prison for retweeting a North Korean propaganda post, even though the judge acknowledged that some of his tweets were a parody. In South Korea, the military is primarily concerned with North Korea and does not have domestic security concerns. Yet there are many agencies independent from the military that are internal security forces. The Korean National Police Agency, the Korean National Coast Guard, the Korean Customs Service, the Presidential Security Service, and the National Intelligence Service, formerly the Korean Central Intelligence Agency. The police field about 42,000 personnel. The other 5 agencies have about 11,000 personnel. The most significant out of these, I would argue, and is the second pillar of South Korea's internal security apparatus, is the National Intelligence Service. According to a 2012 International Crisis Group report, South Korea's intelligence community faces three pathologies: intelligence failure, the politicization of intelligence, and intervention in domestic politics by intelligence agencies. Formed in 1961 as the Korean Central Intelligence Agency by then leader and dictator Park Chung-hee, the original duties were to supervise and coordinate both international and domestic intelligence activities and criminal investigation by all government intelligence agencies, including the military. Under Park, the lack of advancements in civil liberties continued to be justified by referring to the threat from North Korea. The agency's broad powers allowed it to actively intervene in the military. In 1981, it reformed as the Agency for National Security Planning, yet it remained heavily involved in domestic politics and even promoted the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul. In 1999, it again reformed as the now National Intelligence Service in response to public criticism of its past abuses. However, its interference in domestic politics continues. The former head of NIS, Woo Se-hun, resigned in March 2013 and is undergoing trial on charges of discrediting key opposition figures as pro-North leftists online and manipulating public opinion in favor of current President Park Geun-hye in the run-up to the 2012 presidential election. The NIS claims that its acts were routine psychological warfare against North Korea. The current leader of the NIS, Nam Jae-jun, is under mounting pressure from the opposition and ruling party politicians alike to step down amid an investigation into his agency's alleged fabrication of evidence in an espionage case. On March 15th this year, prosecutors arrested another NIS agent in connection with forgery. In August 2013, the NIS revealed it was investigating Lee Seok-ki, a leftist MP, on charges of plotting an insurrection to sabotage South Korean infrastructure in the event of war with the North. Mr. Lee referred to the investigation as a medieval witch hunt. Despite early public support for his arrest, the severity of his punishment of 12 years in prison has disquieted many South Koreans. Key evidence against Lee, especially the transcript submitted by the NIS, was called into question by the courts, as some parts of the original recording went missing. The courts needed to correct the NIS spy's transcript in over 270 instances, suggesting their original report was aimed first and foremost at fomenting public anger. Critics further claimed that too much of the evidence against Mr. Lee is based on his penchant for North Korean revolutionary songs. The NIS has also admitted to packet tapping South Korean Gmail accounts. Despite these controversies, it is likely that the NIS will continue to expand its power, despite North Korea's increasingly limited capacity to send human intelligence across the border. More arrests continue to justify the role of the agency, and many others, not just in the opposition, claim that conservative politicians use the memory of the Korean War and the anxiety over the threat from the North to gloss over grievous miscalculation and policy distortions. The third pillar is internet censorship. Reporters Without Borders placed South Korea on a list of countries considered under surveillance alongside Egypt, Thailand, and Russia in its Enemies of the Internet report. Last year, Freedom House downgraded South Korea's internet freedom to partly free, pointing to rising web censorship. In 2012, the government blocked 39,296 websites, citing pro-North Korean content banned by the national security law, as well as anti-obscenity and other regulations, a more than eightfold increase from the 4,731 censored websites in 2008. North Korean news sources are inaccessible from Seoul, including some that are politically neutral and not affiliated with the regime. Last year, about 23,000 Korean web pages were deleted and another 63,000 were blocked at the request of the Korea Communications Standards Commission, a nominally independent but mainly government-appointed public body. This is compared to 2009, when it made just 4,500 requests for deletion. Its filtering chiefly targets pornography, prostitution, and gambling, all of which are illegal in South Korea. But more wholesome pursuits are also restricted. Online gaming is banned between midnight and 6 a.m. for under 16. Users must input their government-issued ID numbers to prove their age. Sites from North Korea, including its state's newspaper, news agency, and Twitter feed, are blocked, as are those of North Korea's sympathizers. A law dating back to the Korean War forbids South Korean maps from being taken out of the country. Because North and South are technically still at war, the law has been expanded to include electronic mapping data, which means that Google, for instance, cannot process South Korean mapping data on its servers and therefore cannot offer driving directions inside the country. In 2010, the UN determined that the KCSC essentially operates as a censorship body. Critiques of internet censorship cite political interference designed to stifle criticism rather than an instrument to deal with the threat emanating from the North, mainly due to the extremely outdated technology available to North Korea to penetrate the internet beyond financial crime. In 2004, internet users were required to input their names and ID numbers on political comments in the run-up to an election. In 2009, those posting any comments on websites with over 100,000 daily visitors were required to do the same. That law has since been rescinded. But although the government is beginning to ease some restrictions, it is stepping up its monitoring of social media. The KCSC set up a special subcommittee on social media in 2011, and the following year asked for 4,500 comments on Twitter, Facebook, and the like to be removed, 13 times more than 2010. Last year, the number of comments deleted increased again to 6,400. Some officials seem to enjoy posting rogue comments as well as deleting genuine ones. As mentioned previously, a group of intelligence agents are now under investigation for allegedly posting thousands of messages under false identities in support of Park Geun-hye, the now president of South Korea, in the run-up to the 2012 election. These incidents point to the willingness to tolerate significant censorship of online political speech. What these internal security apparatuses tell us is the nature of the concerns South Koreans perceive they are facing. Due to the democratic nature of South Korea, the practices seemingly fall within the boundaries of accountability, and there are limits to how far these agencies can intrude into private life. However, it is clear that to the government and the regime, they are concerned with maintaining a particular form of social cohesion, control group behavior, and the desire to minimize political conflicts out of fear of violent confrontation. In essence, the desire to maintain its extraordinary centralization of executive and judicial powers. For the people, it is a fear of North Korea which justifies these practices of the domestic politicization of intelligence and web censorship. I would argue then, though, that South Korea is like the North and uses the perception of threat emanating from the North Korea to maintain a high degree of social control in order to maintain public order and legitimate its regime.